All right, what's up, everyone? Let's do this. Our next training, let me share my whiteboard here. Share screen. 1 second. Welcome everyone to this training. This is gonna be really good stuff. This is super valuable. A lot of really good information here. This is a bit next level tier, kind of breaking things down a little bit more with what happens in a caloric deficit and a caloric surplus. So let me do this. Share screen. Cool. Screen is shared. All right. Let's do this. Let's do this. Bear with me. Perfect. All right. Let's talk about it. Metabolic adaptations. Cool. All right. So today we are talking about metabolic adaptation. Visuals. All right. Let's talk about it. So when we are either spending time in a caloric surplus or a caloric deficit, we experience various adaptations, and they can be both positive and negative. So let's talk a little bit about what that means and what that looks like in regards to our dieting. All right. So let's first talk about some positive adaptations. So one positive adaptation of being in a caloric surplus, right? So, you're having a little bit more calories. So let's quickly recap. TDE is your total daily energy expenditure. Total daily energy expenditure, right? And this is going to make up your NEAT levels, tough levels, CAL, all these different things, right? Oh yeah, the big one is BMR, total daily energy expenditure. If you remember from our last training, we broke this down. If you haven't seen that one, watch that one. That's gold. All right. So one positive adaptation of being a caloric surplus is what we all want is muscle building potential. It's also known as muscle protein synthesis. So muscle protein synthesis, okay? MPS. And this is great. This is what we want, right? So this process involves the body using more calories to repair and grow muscle tissue, right? So with muscle protein synthesis, this is, having more calories is going to give us more energy. And with increased energy available, our muscle building not only becomes possible, it becomes more efficient. So this process of using these extra calories will build this muscle, right? This is crucial for athletes, for anyone that's aiming to increase their muscle mass. The additional energy also supports higher training intensities and volumes, which further promotes muscle growth. On the other hand here, the significant positive adaptation of being a caloric deficit is fat loss, right? So here's a positive adaptation of caloric surplus. Let's talk about a positive adaptation of a caloric deficit, right? Solid. And that is fat loss. So that's a positive adaptation, right? Caloric deficit, consistency over a long period of time, boom, fat loss. By consuming fewer calories than your body burns, our body taps into stored fat energy. So our stored body fat, it taps into that on our bodies. We all have stored fat, and our bodies will use that as energy when we're in a caloric deficit for a consistent, prolonged amount of period. This leads to a reduction in body fat percentage. It leads to a leaner physique. This adaptation aligns with goals of improving body composition, improving some aesthetics. If you have competitive things in mind, like fitness competitions and just overall health in general. These changes highlight why we tailor caloric intake to match our specific goals to our students. So for muscle building, we create a calorie-rich environment, while for fat loss, we create a calorie deficit. Now, it's important to understand that achieving one goal often comes with trade-offs, as is with the balance of life, right? Like Thanos eloquently said in the Marvel universe in Avengers, he tried to explain that, with all things there is balance. Good shit. As you experience adaptations, it helps understanding them. That way you can kind of better navigate the process, right? Understanding that there are going to be some trade-offs. So when you're aiming for fat loss, you need to be in a caloric deficit. However, this process is so much more complicated than it appears, because as there are positive metabolic adaptations, such as fat loss, there are negative metabolic adaptations that can make fat loss much more challenging, hence the balance. So for instance, one major challenge in a caloric deficit is hormonal changes can occur. Hormonal in the sense of, there's a couple things here. So first of all, positive in a caloric deficit, and now here's some negatives. Autocorrect would be awesome right now, but hormones. And these hormones are there's two main hormones we're gonna talk about that happens as a negative adaptation with caloric deficit, and that is leptin. Leptin is a satiety hormone. That is not how you spell it. OMG, there it is, satiety hormone. What this is basically the hormone that regulates whether you're full or not, right? So this hormone decreases during deficit. So what this is going to happen is going to lead into increased hunger. and mainly a difficulty in feeling full after meals. So this can make it really challenging to adhere to a calories restricted diet because leptin makes you feel hungry even though you just ate a meal. So you just ate a nice big old meal for dinner or whatnot, and 10 minutes later, you're like, I'm hungry, I need a little snack. That is because your leptin levels have dropped. Your leptin hormone has dropped. At the same time, another amazing hormone here is called ghrelin. Ghrelin is your hunger hormone. Breaking that down, what this does is it kind of tells you that, hey, I'm hungry. I'm hungry right now. So it's not a very fun combination to have. So this hunger hormone, ghrelin, will signal to your brain to stimulate appetite, leading you to feel sensations of more hunger more frequently. So this will go up. Leptin will go down. So this inverse relationship between leptin and ghrelin can really make sticking to a diet very, very difficult. You might find yourself constantly battling hunger, which could lead to overeating and difficulty maintaining the calorie deficit. So the joys of dieting, and when you're in a caloric deficit for a long period of time, this is just not a fun combination to have. Satiety going to be low, hunger is going to be high. This is a horrible combo for trying to stick to your program. That's what makes dieting so hard. Understanding this process, though, alongside proper support and proper accountability, will make sticking to the plan much more doable, so you can hit your body fat percentage goals once and for all and for good. So again, this goes down. This is I'm not full. Feed me more. And then your ghrelin is, hey, I'm hungry. So this goes up. So I'm hungry and I'm not full. That's kind of the bottom line right there. So that's what happens as a negative adaptation to a caloric surplus. Additionally, there's another major aspect that we need to discuss as a negative metabolic adaptation when it comes to a deficit. And that is right here, muscle protein synthesis. This goes down. So muscle protein synthesis decreases in a caloric deficit, while muscle protein breakdown increases. So another inverse relationship here. So you're going to have leptin and hormone inverse. We're also going to have muscle protein synthesis and muscle protein breakdown. This also will go down, and this will also go up. So what this happens is this shift leads to more of a catabolic state, where the body breaks down muscle tissue for energy. We're trying to preserve muscle tissue, and we're trying to lose body fat stores in our body. That's ideal when we're trying to do a fat loss here. But what happens is, being in a catabolic state, our body breaks down muscle tissues for energy. So while the primary goal of a deficit is fat loss, this catabolic state can also result in muscle loss if not managed properly. That's why you see and you hear a lot of the skinny fat. You see someone really, really lean or really, really skinny, but there's a high percentage of body fat there, because all that cardio you're doing, without this right strategy, you're going to lose muscle mass and your body's going to hoard on to all that. Our body doesn't care what we look like. Our body doesn't care how much muscle we have. All our body cares about is if we survive another day. It's on survival mode. It wants to make sure we stay alive. So this is why strategies like maintaining adequate protein intake and engaging in resistance training, they're essential. They're mandatory. They need to happen in order to preserve muscle mass during a caloric deficit. So muscle mass will go down. Muscle building potential will go down. Muscle building potential, which is muscle synthesis, goes down. Muscle preservation and that'll go up. So you can't build muscle, and you will lose your muscle without the right strategy, like resistance training and protein. So I harp on you guys a lot about protein, and this is kind of the main reason why. So these strategies will help mitigate muscle mass by providing the necessary nutrients and also the very necessary stimulus for maintenance in your muscles. A lot of really good stuff here. Fun things. Hormones. Down, up, inverse relationship, and then your muscle protein synthesis, muscle protein breakdown goes down and goes up. So the ability to stay full goes down. The ability to stay hungry goes up. The ability to build muscle goes down. The ability to lose muscle goes up. All great, horrible metabolic adaptations, what happens in a caloric deficit. So it's really important to understand these concepts and know what to expect so you can better navigate it. Another negative adaptation is a drop in NEAT levels. NEAT levels, it's right here. It encompasses part of your total daily energy expenditure. NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Okay. What that does, NEAT is basically, it includes all the minor movements you do throughout the day, such as fidgeting, walking, any activity that isn't formal exercise, things that you kind of do without thinking, like all this hand gestures I'm doing, all this fidgeting, this moving around, all this boom, this stuff. This is all part of my NEAT levels. I'm not doing it I'm not purposely trying to do it. That's just my energy. I have the energy to do this, and that's what I do. So NEAT is, if you recall from our previous training about energy balance, NEAT is around 70% of our total daily energy expenditure. It's not our workouts. It's not our, it's everyone thinks it's all about the workouts. That's what's going to help you lose fat with calories. No, it's actually your NEAT levels. Your workouts, if you recall from last training, is only about it's only about what was it, 10%, I believe it is. So BMR is about 70% of everything you need to do. This comes into account. This comes into play. All this stuff really attributes, and it's not your exercises. It's not how good of a workout you do. Your workout should be there to build muscle and preserve muscle. While your energy and your calories, you need to focus on your caloric intake, how much calories you're taking in, not so much how many calories you're expending. So with your Apple Watch, with all these different trackers, it's fun information to have, and it's good to remind yourself and stay habitual and accountable. But what's really important to have is the control of the food that you're intaking, the calories that you're intaking. Not how much you expend, but how much you intake. When dieting, our bodies are adaptive and will shut down systems and find ways to reduce energy consumptions, like subconsciously moving less, talking less. Our body will find ways to reduce your total daily energy expenditure, like my hand gesture, like I told you about, with your NEAT levels, your BMR. Those are the majority of your calories that you're going to spend. So this decrease means you burn fewer calories, making it necessary to further reduce calorie intake to maintain that deficit. Meaning where you started with your caloric deficit is going to have to reduce, because our bodies are so adaptive. Our bodies are so smart that it's going to shut down systems and make you more efficient with your energy, with the calories that you have. So this adaptation makes fat loss increasingly difficult as your body adapts to conserve energy. Good stuff, right? So in addition to the metabolic changes, a calorie deficit can also affect various aspects of your life, not talked about too much, but your libido, your sex drive, that often decreases when you're on a low calorie deficit. This reduction can impact relationships, of course, when you're in one, and just over your overall quality of life. Lower energy levels can also affect your mood, your motivation, making everyday activities feel more challenging. So when it's a rainy day outside, when it's really cloudy, it makes it all that much more difficult, because your body is trying to shut down processes, trying not to give you energy to do things. Then your motivation is low, your mood is low, all these different things. These are negative adaptations of a caloric deficit. Now, while achieving a lean physique has its benefits, it comes with these costs. So it's important to recognize and plan for these challenges. Understanding these negative adaptations helps normalize the experiences of hunger, decrease satiety, and reduce muscle gain during a caloric deficit. It's also normal for your initial calorie budget to need adjustment and recalculations as your NEAT levels decrease. So your NEAT levels go down, we expend less energy. TDE is reduced, meaning you need to further reduce your calories. So I could break that down a little bit more. So your NEAT levels goes down, which means we expend less energy. Okay, and our TDEE needs to be adjusted. Our TDE is adjusted, so our calories need to reflect our TDE, our new TDE, because that's where they're reduced. Your libido goes down. These adaptations get really, really pronounced, especially with long-term diets or extreme leanness or extreme and aggressive cuts. People that are in competitive bodybuilding shows, fitness shows, can make these adaptations more pronounced. Athletes who aim for extremely low body fat percentages or are just super, super active, like doing 2 days, often experience severe hunger, fatigue, and muscle loss. Understanding these adaptations will help you understand that it's normal to feel hungry and not feel full. It's normal that you don't build as easily or at all. It's possible for some new and kind of untrained people who are kind of new to the gym and new to the lifestyle, but it's less likely for more experienced lifters, because the muscle protein synthesis and muscle breakdown crossover effect, it makes it a little more difficult. We could break that more down into another training. But the fact is, I want you to understand and come away with this, is it's normal that where you start your deficit will need to come down and be recalculated as you progress. All these things are very, very simple. Let me stop sharing screens here. Let me stop presenting. The big takeaway here is this is all simple. Like, I'm breaking things down. Leptin levels go down. Your hunger hormones go up. You can't build as much muscle, and all these different things they're very simple on paper, but super simple does not mean easy, right? So understanding all this, it's essential for those especially in the Vegan Strength Academy, with all the students that are wanting to achieve mindset shifts, some physique and lifestyle transformations. For those wanting to achieve fat loss and build muscle, you got to carefully understand and carefully manage your diet and your training to mitigate these effects. This is where strategy, support, accountability, this is where it really comes into play, such as diet breaks, refeeds. It takes a lot of grit, a lot of determination, a lot of discipline to achieve fantastic results, and understanding what needs to be done, understanding the normalcy of what you can expect can help you prepare and endure the metabolic adaptations, especially with fat loss. So I hope that was very valuable for everybody there, with all the breakdowns of what happens with metabolic adaptations, positive and both negative. There is a lot of balance to it. So really important to you have crystal clear clarity of your goals. That way you can understand metabolic adaptations, both positive and negative, but what to expect as you go through your journey. Thanks again, guys. See you next time.